Thanks to SKILLSHare for sponsoring this video. I think in a world where we're constantly inundated with advertisements and told about what we need to be happy or to survive, it's so difficult to remember what's important. This has been something I've really been working on as I've pursued minimalism. And so I thought I would just share specific criteria and a list of questions you can use to decide whether or not to purchase something. These are all strategies I've used that have really helped me, and some might apply to you better than others. So if you're interested in reducing your spending and your shopping, I'd encourage you to watch through the end of the video because you might pick up something you might find helpful. My first piece of advice is to think about another item that's somewhat similar to the item you're about to purchase, and just consider the degree to which it improved your happiness. I think it's so easy to think that something will make us feel so much more content or make us feel cool in some way or satisfied with ourselves, when really we've purchased similar things in the past, but they haven't fully done that for us, at least not in the long term. And so I think doing this, thinking of another example and the impact it had on you, can be really helpful. And I also think sometimes we can think of something that we've purchased in the past that has actually been really useful to us or helpful to us. And so I'm not just saying this will entirely every time discourage you from buying something, but I think it can help gauge how much am I actually going to use this? How much will it actually make me happier by comparing it to a previous item? The second tip is actually very closely related to the first, and that is to think about other items that are similar that you've purchased that maybe could do the same job as the one you're considering buying. I have such a tendency to buy the same things over and over and over again. I think especially in this day and age, like looking for that perfect white t-shirt, looking for that perfect pair of sandals or jeans. Sometimes it's just like this never-ending quest. The reality is there is never going to be that perfect pair of jeans or those perfect sandals. No matter how many times you try to purchase new ones, there's always going to be a problem. And even if it's specific to, like, for jeans, for example, even if you did find the perfect pair of jeans of a particular type, that's the problem. They're just one type of jeans. And then you might start to convince yourself, oh, that's just the loose, kind of chill vintage style of jeans. I want some tight-fitting jeans that are perfect. And so I do think that so often we end up making the same purchases over and over again in the same category when really we don't need all those belongings. And quite often it's going to be kind of impossible to find that perfect item. So I think just thinking back to other items that are similar to the one you're thinking of purchasing can help you kind of reflect on whether you really need this item or whether you could just get by with what you already have. My third piece of advice is to delay and to ask yourself whether you've really waited an appropriate amount of time to make this purchase. I think so often in the moment we can find something and think it's perfect and it's great, but if we just set a kind of rule for ourselves, I have to wait at least 24 hours before I purchase something, or perhaps a month before I purchase something, I think it can really help just decrease the number of purchases, because it's actually startling how frequently I wait that allotted time and then I no longer have that desire to purchase the item. And so I think it can be really an impactful way to slow down that trickle of stuff from the outside into your home. Especially because I think purchasing is often so based in emotions. It's about kind of like escaping negative emotions or feeling good or feeling that high of purchasing something. So if you can just kind of delay until maybe your emotions are in a slightly different place, it might really help you overcome that urge to buy something, especially if it's sort of for the wrong reasons, like you don't really actually need that item. My fourth piece of advice is to think about how much value will this item actually bring to my life. I think so often we buy little doodads or little gadgets that we don't really need and don't really give us a deeper sense of meaning or purpose. So often they don't allow us to actually do a new activity or a new thing. And they're just kind of the same old things that we keep buying over and over again. And so really asking yourself that question, will this bring true value to my life? Will it give me more meaning? What are my values? What do I want to spend more of my time doing? And will this item actually allow me to do that? I think actually asking those questions can help you take pause and really consider what's important and what just is superfluous. At this point, I want to take a quick break to talk about the sponsor of this video, which I think actually relates to that most recent point, in that when you're spending money and you're putting effort into something, it's important to think about whether it will actually increase something that you value in your life or will actually bring meaning or purpose to your life. And I gotta say, I do think that the sponsor of this video might pass that test, but of course that's up to you to decide. But SKILLSHare is an incredible online learning community. They have thousands of classes on all kinds of topics. It's really a space for you to explore your creativity or learn a new skill, and just to gain confidence in pursuing something that you're passionate about or that you're interested in. I recently started taking a course called Kitchen Confidence, Practical Tips for Cooking with Intuition by Julie Yoon. And I thought it was a really engaging course to learn how to cook more freely and more confidently. Another class I recently took was about self-care, created by Jonathan Van Ness. And I mentioned that in my last video with SKILLSHare, but I just think he's so great. It's Jonathan from Queer Eye. I think that's what's great about SKILLSHare, is that they just have people creating these courses that are so engaging and so useful and fun. And so it's like you're learning something while you also are just kind of like enjoying yourself. And I also just like that the content on SKILLSHare is really curated and organized and focused. So if you're interested, click the link below in the description box. The first 1,000 people to use this link will get a 1-month free trial of SKILLSHare. So if you're interested, you can just give it a try there for free. Okay, back to the topic of this video. So the 5th tip I have is to ask yourself the question, what would I rather spend my money on? So if you're thinking about buying something, really consider, is there something I'd rather be investing in? Maybe it's something in your future, like a bigger purchase or some other opportunity, or maybe it's just another item that you'd rather have than this one. I think when we don't think about where else we could be putting that money, it's easy to just spend the money freely. So taking that moment to consider how else you might want to spend that money can be really helpful. The 6th piece of advice is to ask yourself the question, especially for items that are on sale, would I still buy this item even if it wasn't on sale? I think so often I have been a victim of being tempted by things just because it's a great deal or it's on sale. And I realized later, wow, you know what? I would not have bought this unless it was such a good deal. And so I think take pause, step back, and perhaps not buy the item right then. My 7th piece of advice is to consult someone. Talk about it with someone, especially if there's someone who knows about your journey towards minimalism or maybe trying to minimize. I think just talking it out and considering the pros and cons of an item with somebody else gives you that extra space to think about it more intentionally. Now, of course, you can't maybe ask this for every single item you ever buy because you don't want to burden the people around you with that, but especially when you're really on the edge and you just can't decide, sometimes consulting somebody can just put me over the edge of deciding to delay a little bit longer and really consider whether I should buy something. I know I often call my sister or my mom when I'm really on the edge about whether to buy something, and often they'll just kind of remind me of other things, again, that I'd rather spend my money on or find flaws that I didn't really notice. And then those items will kind of begin to lose their power over me and I'll move on with my day. My 8th piece of advice is to compare the item to other items on your wish list. And so implied is that you keep a wish list. So you actually write down items as you're considering purchasing them. So you have a set place for where you know you can put an item if you're not sure about whether to buy it. I think doing this can really help almost take the burden off of oh, I need to remember this item or else I might forget it and not get it and I might regret it. And so weirdly, by writing it down, it externalizes it for me and I'm able to kind of move on and not worry about it. And often I end up not even buying the things on my wish list. But I can also be very intentional when I do decide to purchase something. I can look at my wish list and really think, out of all these items that I thought I wanted, which one do I really want the most? Which is going to bring the most meaning or purpose to my life? Which am I going to enjoy the most? It just allows you to organize your shopping a little bit more. So I think it's a really great strategy if you're trying to minimize your spending. This ninth one is really helpful to me, and that is to think about recent declutters you did. If you are somebody who is on a minimalism journey and you've been doing declutters, you know how much work decluttering can really be. And so sometimes when I'm shopping or I'm considering buying something, I'll just think back to like my most recent declutter or decluttering items similar to the items that I'm considering purchasing. And it just gives me that motivation to not buy it because I'm like, I don't want to have to do that again. I don't want to have to keep decluttering. And if I already got rid of an item that was somewhat similar to this item, why should I be buying more and spending money on something that I even recently kind of got rid of? I think thinking about declutters can help motivate me to not bring more stuff from the outside into my home. My 10th and final tip, at least for this video, and I think this one is a little bit different and I think is super helpful, is to think about something that you're passionate about for a few minutes rather than this item that you're thinking about buying. So think about a person in your life that you really care about and that you enjoy being around. Think about a favorite activity or something you really enjoy doing. Think even about an issue in your wider community that you're passionate about. And I think just thinking about these bigger, more important values-based things for a little while can help remind me that this item that I'm considering buying probably just isn't that important to me. It's not going to really impact these bigger picture issues or people or things that I deeply care about. I think it just allows you to zoom out and think about, what do I really care about? And is this item really in that category of things that I deeply care about? So often this item is not related. And I'm not saying we can never make a fun purchase ever, but I just think by thinking about something else for a little while, and especially something that you care more about, it can take away the power from that item that you're thinking about purchasing and just put things into perspective. Because after all, to me, minimalism is really about pursuing meaning and a bigger purpose in your life and creating space for things that you care about. You know, one other thing I want to mention is that we don't need to be hard on ourselves. We all sometimes make purchases we regret, and we don't have to beat ourselves up mentally about these things that we've done. But I do think that we can try to put our best foot forward in the future and really build a life that we want to have. And I think if we can just spend our money with more intention and take some of these criteria and really compare it against how we want to be living and weigh out whether this is really worth our money and even ultimately our time, I think can help us live in a more intentional, values-driven way. So that's all I've got for you today. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. You can hit the subscribe button below, hit the thumbs up button if you ended up liking the video, and thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.